From April this year, the South African Police Services will launch a pilot project seeing 100 police officers wearing body-worn cameras. This in an effort to collect evidence on crime investigations and to safeguard police officers during raids as well as combat. Chad Thomas, the CEO of IRS Forensic Investigations, now joins us on this. Chad, how successful are body cameras in the police service generally around the world? I think there's enough data and case studies to look at in the efficacy of it, one, in safeguarding police officers, but also helping with crime investigations should it be needed for such.
Good afternoon, Oliver, and good afternoon to the viewers. If you look at the United States as an example, 60% of their law enforcement are currently using body-worn, tamper-proof body cam. It is working. It protects not just the police officer, but it also protects the victims. It's something that is there as a constant reminder that there's a chain of evidence. It cannot be tampered with because the control center will pick up that it has been tampered with, and of course disciplinary processes will be implemented. But to what you discussed about international studies and recent developments, there was a case in America very recently, in the last couple of weeks in fact, where 2 correctional officers were charged with murder because the body cam showed that they were excessively violent with an inmate at an awaiting trial facility in New York. So we can see the efficacy of this both from a victim perspective as well as from the perspective of the police, especially in light of what's happening in South Africa in terms of the voluminous claims that have been made where people are expressing that there's violent police officers and that there may not necessarily be the proof of this.
Yeah, the South African Police Service is the most litigated state functionary in the country. Most of those litigations and claims are of police brutality and excessive use of violence. Do you think that we'll see a reduction of that? Are these cameras effective in changing the culture, in the behavior of the police?
It's not just the police. We've also got a culture in South Africa where we've got fabricated or fake RAF claims. Anywhere where there's a State Department that's going to pay out money and rather try to settle than litigate for years and years and years, people are going to try to start taking advantage of. And it becomes the word of the police officer against the word of the civilians involved in that particular altercation. The police officers may not have even been involved in a violent act, but they've been accused of it and the state just wants to settle. So from both perspectives, it can only be to the benefit of the South African citizenry that we roll out this program. And I think it's kudos to Minister Mkhunu to have brought it to this stage that we're going to see them rolled out from April in a pilot project.
Yeah, it's a pilot project. We're talking about 100 police officers from April. The DA says that's not nearly enough. One can just assume this is about first figuring out how these things actually work and how we store the data, process the data, and synthesize the video footage data that will be received. But the other consideration might be a cost consideration. How expensive are these body cameras and operating them?
It's very expensive, and you also have to have updated software, you have to have control centers, you need to charge it. We're in a country that has electrical issues. But one must also look at the fact that we need to go the digitization route. More than 25 years ago, they started talking about digitizing case dockets, yet case dockets are still in hard copy. If a case docket goes missing, most of the evidence goes missing. So we need to move in terms of technology. But I think the DA is flawed in their thought process by saying just rolling out 100 is wrong. It's a start. There has to be a pilot project. We have to work out the kinks in the system. We have to make things work. Our minister has shown that he says what he means and he means what he says. If you look at our crime statistics that came out yesterday, we've got a 3.3% drop in serious violent crimes like rape. We've got a 9.8%, say 10% drop in the most horrific crime of all, which is murder. So I think let's give our minister a chance, let him start rolling out the digitization, and let's not be armchair critics until we start seeing exactly how effective this can be.
Are those drops in statistics, and I do think it's important that we shed some light on it, are those drops in contact crime, violent crime, and rape and murder on the other hand at a 10%, nearly a 10% drop, as a result of an efficiency and efficacy within the police service and a change in policy and attitude, or are there external factors that may have contributed to that?
Look, it's holistic. There's a number of contributing factors towards it, but the most important factor, I think, is leadership. We have a national minister who's showing that he sticks to his word. He's become exceptionally victim-centric. If one reads his speeches and listens to what he has to say afterwards, you can see that the man has a empathy towards victims. You can see that he's trying to lead from the front. He's not like his predecessor that looked for sound bites. He's actually genuinely invested in the citizenry of South Africa. And then when you look at the leadership of the police itself, you look at the generals like Patakile from the Western Cape, Mtumbeni from Gauteng, Mkhwanazi from KZN. These are generals that are really going and taking the fight to the criminals. And I do think that criminals are beginning to realize that there's consequences and accountability to their actions. Hence, we're seeing this reduction in the most serious of crimes.
Yeah. Chair Thomas, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your insights. I really do appreciate it. Chair Thomas is the CEO of IRS Forensics Investigations.